Welcome, Matt, to For the Love of Group Fitness podcast, all the way from China.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. What is the weather like in China right now?
Well, it's really nice, actually. It's supposed to be winter, but the last 3 or 4 days has been kind of very autumnal. So it's quite bright sunshine, still a little bit chilly, a little bit windy, but it's that time when, you've got all the brown leaves on the floor and you can, kick through them when you go for a stroll down the street.
Oh.
And it's also very lovely because, oddly enough, with the virus situation, it actually means the streets are very quiet. So there's 26 million people in Shanghai, but I can go for a walk and see maybe 5. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, I saw one of your videos you put, I can't remember whether it's on Twitter or Instagram, along the street. You're going along the street.
Yeah. I think that might yesterday just going to get a coffee. But yeah, it's lovely.
Cool. So the idea behind this podcast really is just to have a chat and about, the stuff that we do for the love of group fitness, the shit that we do for the love of group fitness. And, for those who are listening in to just kind of, have an appreciation for it. And, we can all share and have a laugh about it, because I think there's certain things that are unique about our industry. So I wanted to kick things off, Matt, with, are you frozen? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I just stopped talking because I thought maybe if you edit this, there's a nice gap that you can see. But yeah, now I've got you back. But you froze, and then it went blank for a while.
I have no idea. We'll just have little pauses in between. It's fine. Okay, let's kick things off. What did you want to be when you were growing up as a child?
Oh, that is actually a tough one. I haven't had that for a long time. I mean, I guess I was a typical young British boy. I wanted to be a footballer. So I was very sporty as a kid, and I always would have loved to have been a footballer, but I never really had, I guess, the discipline to and the drive to stick with that. I just played football for fun. But that was kind of a little thing in the back of my head that was a dream. But then also my other passion was skateboarding. And so that was the era when skateboarding kind of started to become fairly popular, and people like Tony Hawk were getting a little bit of fame and fortune. So in the early days, skateboarding was just for us sort of dropouts to hang out on the street and bum around a bit. But then as the years went on, you could see that you could actually do it and get sponsored and make some money and travel the world. And so I sort of had a little dream about that for a while. But I guess in terms of an actual career, I was always interested in music. And I was thinking of being a sound engineer. Like, I didn't think I could have been a pop star in a band, but I loved music and like musical scores for film, or like the behind the scenes sound engineering. Yeah, I always was interested in doing that, but that wasn't available when you went to careers day back in my day, and they said, what do you want to be? That wasn't on the list. And coming from a little town, Honiton in Devon, it was the job opportunities were not quite as illustrious as that.
But when I first met you was, I think, maybe at a FitPro convention in the UK. You just come back from the US, didn't you?
That's right. Yeah. It would have been maybe 2004. Yeah. So because that's why I started to do all this group fitness stuff. Actually, was in the US. So I went away to university for sports science, and while I was studying sports science, I got a football coaching badge. It was called the FA Preliminary Coaching Award. I think it's called the UEFA C badge now, but just a basic qualification that allows you to coach football. And a friend that I was studying with, he'd gone 2 or 3 years in a row to the States to do the summer soccer camps, and this one particular year he wasn't going to go. So he said, "Oh, I can put your name forward because they'd love to have a replacement ready to roll." And so I went for the summer. It was 6 or 7 weeks where there's 4 boys, you've got a car, and you just travel to the town, do the soccer camp for that week, travel to the next town, do the soccer camp, travel to the next town. And then I went back again the next year. So I did that 2 years in a row. And then the third time they actually invited me to stay. So I got offered a job coaching soccer, as it's called over there. in North Carolina in the USA, a school called West Carteret High School. And what you can do is you don't have to be a qualified teacher to be a substitute teacher. You can do a training for it. So I was a substitute teacher and a soccer coach, and then so my fitness was at Gold's Gym. So I was training at Gold's Gym.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day the manager said, "Hey, would you like to teach body pump?" And I was like, "Not really. I'm a typical guy. I kind of play football and lift weights. I don't go into the group fitness studio." And she said, "Oh, hey, look," her name was Terry. She said, "Hey, look, my husband's going on the training. The Les Mills people told us if we get some men teaching body pump, it'd be pretty cool. And also get some people teaching this group fitness thing that aren't actually group fitness instructors now, so you bring a sort of new flavor to it, as it were." And then so I went on the training and got hooked and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, when I then moved from the USA back to the UK, I carried on doing the Les Mills thing. And that was where we would have met at the FitPro convention in Loughborough.
Yeah.
I probably had red hair as well. I think I might have had some red.
Did.
What an idiot. Oh dear.
So up until that point where you're going to the gym, so prior to, actually, so I rephrase that, prior to doing body pump, you'd never really done any group fitness or at all?
No, none at all. And I wasn't really interested either. So it wasn't, no circuit training, no boxercise, none of that stuff. So
Okay.
I was a gym instructor in Southampton. And then that's sort of what got me into sort of physical training. So I was studying sports science. So I was very interested in, maybe being a PE teacher, maybe being a physiotherapist, doing something in the sports world, but I wasn't sure what. So I just kind of carried on studying, and fitness is what I loved. And then so I was a gym instructor there. But then when I went to the States and I started doing the soccer coaching, when I was training at Gold's Gym, I actually became a membership consultant there. So I became a part-time membership consultant. And that's kind of what got me a little bit interested in the business of health and fitness as well. So I still didn't have a career path. I just was playing around a bit at coaching soccer and lifting weights and being at Gold's Gym. But it was completely alien to me. And to be honest, I don't think I would have been the kind of person to walk past the fitness studio and say, yes, I want to do that. So for me, it's a real butterfly sort of effect moment, that tap on the shoulder from Terry, where she went, go on, do it. It'll be fun. You'll be great. No worries. And because I was friends with her husband, Bobby, we went, yeah, let's give it a try. We didn't really know what we were getting into. So both of us, that body pump masterclass at the initial training was both of our first ever group fitness experiences. Wow. Yeah. So it was quite bizarre that, 20 years on, I'm still saying 2-2 chest up, abs on.
God, I remember, I went along to body pump training because I'd never done it before. And I was invited to attend the body balance boot camp training, for the UK. And I had no idea what Les Mills was about. And I went along to the body pump module just to find out more about the company. It was 3 days. You remember the time when it was 3 days? You had 2 days. So you would go back for the third day. And all I remember was after the body pump challenge, I couldn't get my car in reverse to get out of the car park. It was so funny. And then there was an instructor. She turned up late. I can't remember whether it was day 2 or day 3. She turned up late.
Yeah.
We thought she wasn't going to come. She fell through the door of the studio. She'd been stopped by the police, right? Because she had like the shoulder track or something, and she's driving with one hand and the other hand out the window, doing like the presses.
Doing the moves.
And the police thought she was swearing at them. They took her, breathalyzed her.
I bet there's all sorts of horror stories out there of people doing body combat while they're driving, and body step and attack. And yeah, if someone looks in their rearview mirror and sees us behind them, we probably look at right state. It's interesting because like that challenge, it was the same for me when I went on the body pump training. So it was release number 44, and the same as you, it was the 3-day training. And I can remember that body pump challenge was literally just to beast you. It was, to really, humble you that no, you're not quite fit enough to teach this program. You need to push yourself harder. And obviously, as the years have progressed, we've kind of now realized that in the adult education world and in training athletes, that's not actually the best practice. But at the time, it was great fun, and it did instill a bit of that sort of culture of trying to be your best and pushing hard. And I can still remember vividly my training. The trainer was a guy called Mike LaPlaca, a US guy, and he was an Italian American, really good looking, great physique. He was a track athlete at college, and like all the girls really loved him and thought he was so sexy, and all the men really thought he was so cool. And it was just the whole experience was just a real life-changing. I know we use a life-changing kind of cliche, but it really was, all the different emotions we went through, and my memory of watching that body pump video, with the late great Mike McSweeney on there. It was just, it completely changed my life. It's insane. And same as you, I knew nothing about Les Mills or any of the other stuff. It was just a cool workout. We had a fun weekend, and the guy that delivered the training inspired me to want to do the same thing. Yeah.
Cool. Now, you talked earlier on, you mentioned this sort of ripple or butterfly effect, right? From that initial tap on the shoulder to what you do now. What are the key things? So firstly, tell our listeners, those that don't know you, what you do now, and then the key moments in your life that's led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so my role now is training manager. I'm here in China. So with the Les Mills systems, pretty much each country that runs the programs has its own little agency that looks after it in that part of the world. So I'm here in China looking after the trainers, assessors, and presenters of the Les Mills programs. And that's the team that go out and train the instructors, do the education, the workshops, and the upskill. So they're sort of they're the sleeves rolled up people at the grassroots. And of course, all of us are also still group fitness instructors. So we teach our regular classes day in and day out. But it's an interesting thing to look back on, because when you talk about those sort of key moments, or the things that the butterfly effect moments, they are always out of the blue, completely random. I didn't sit down and plan, this is where I'm going to be in 5 years, or I'm going to live in China when I'm this old, or any of that. It was that tap on the shoulder from Terry at Gold's Gym. And then she suggested, and like I said, I never would have gone on this pathway if it wasn't for her. That the second part to that was when I actually took, and it was a VHS video cassette back then as well, to watch. None of this iPhone nonsense you got now. VHS video. You got to put it in the machine and put the machine down, and it takes ages to fast forward it to the track that you want, because there's no like quick flip. But I watched that video, and the three people on stage were just fit athletic role models. It was a big group fitness studio. The music was pumping. People were doing some good weight training, and it just looked like an incredible experience. And so then when I did the actual training, Mike LaPlaca, the trainer, he continued that sort of inspiration. So I think, if it wasn't for him also, if that weekend was a bit flat and dull, or if I didn't connect with him, I might never have gone on this journey. So having that weekend, or the 3-day training with someone that I actually thought, up until now, I never knew this thing existed. And now I've spent these 2 days or 3 days with someone, and I just want to do your job. And I remember, you remember at the end of the training when you will sit in a circle and do a little share.
Yeah.
Like I can remember now, I can still feel like I'm getting goosebumps now, because it was a really odd moment for me. I got quite emotional, and it was really strange, because I just thought, well, this is only group fitness. Why are these feelings welling up? And even telling the story now, I can feel some little goosebumps, because it was a huge moment for me. And I remember explaining to him that I never knew this thing existed before this weekend. I was just here by chance, that someone tapped me on the shoulder and sent me on the training. And I've been completely blown away. Like the trainer was very engaging. It was educational. I learned heaps. It was entertaining. He was cool. He was fun. And ultimately, he just inspired me to want to do his job. And I said, I'd love to do what you do. And it was just kind of a low-key comment. And he said, well, you can. And that was a real moment that I went, wow, actually, this guy genuinely believes that I could do the thing that I've just gone, this is amazing. And so it's very, very understated, but it was a moment that I went, wow, I'm now moving into a brand new world. And I went kind of quite body pump obsessive, teaching lots of classes, in the mirror all the time, checking your technique, scripting. There was 5 of us that launched the program at the club. So I think when we talk about key moments, it's that I had a community. There was 5 of us that we practiced the new release together. We printed T-shirts that had things on for the launch, so we all wore the same T-shirts. We back then we were wearing. Do you remember Nike Shocks, the shoes? The Nike
Yes.
Shocks,
Yes.
and you could get them ID'd with your name on, and you
Yes.
could get the colors. So we all got black and red Shocks. The girls got white and red Shocks. So we just like fully immersed ourselves. And then after the launch, we'd go over to, I can't remember if it was Arby's, no, it was Applebee's. Applebee's was in the parking lot of Gold's Gym. And so as a team, we'd go to Applebee's and have chicken wings and beer afterwards. And when I look back at why I've been doing this thing for 20 years and what it was that got me hooked, it was that community. It was that experience with friends. It wasn't necessarily Les Mills. It wasn't necessarily the trainer. It was, I had a spark, but then in the early stages of my career development, I had a community, and we supported each other, helped each other. And when I talk to other people in the industry, like yourself, that have had success and been around a long time, nearly always it's the same story. That early on in the journey, there was someone that believed in you, someone that took you under their wing, or you had a little group that you were connected with, and that helped move you along the way. And that's something that's come up 3, 4, 5 times over the years, that when I look back, I really believe that's the key thing that made the difference in the stickiness of me sticking with this and doing it for so long. Yeah. Because, now we train instructors. We see a lot of instructors go through training, and then maybe within a year they're not teaching, or they don't go through the certification and don't teach. Quite often when they're back in the clubs, they haven't got that community, a group fitness manager, a leader, a mentor. There isn't the support. So we do find a lot of good people fall by the wayside, and it's not to do with the instructor training or the program or the product. It's that support community that helps you get successful and build your confidence. And I find I've had that conversation quite a lot recently as we look back on careers.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that you find, whether something succeeds or not, or if an instructor sticks, like you say, that stickiness. It might be that they're the only instructor that that's the club has sent for training, and they've got no one else to lean into, and things like that. So yeah, definitely. So then, what happened from? Because it takes a lot, right, to go from being an instructor to to then stepping up as a trainer.
So yeah, that's what I love about this industry, right? Is that everybody has a different story, and we meet people on the journey, and everyone, when you share your story of how you got started as an instructor, how you became a trainer, very rarely are 2 stories the same. And that's what I love about what we do. And for me, I guess in a way it's kind of unique. So the starting of the instructor journey was the tap on the shoulder from Terry. And then the start of the trainer journey was at the initial training, when I had that spark to go, I'd love to do what you do. So as you know, you've got to send in a video of you teaching a class to get certified. So what I did is when I sent my video in of me teaching the class to get certified, what I did before is I went into the office, and I can still picture myself. It was at Gold's Gym. I was in the management office. And do you remember that Sinead O'Connor video, Nothing Compares to You?
Yeah.
Where it's just face. So I zoomed the camera into just my face, and I sung You've Lost That Loving Feeling to the camera. and you know me, I can't sing, but I was balls out. I gave it my heart, my soul, and everything. And I sung, and then I said to the camera, hey, look, my first dream is to be a rock and roll star, but clearly I can't sing. So the second best thing is to be a Les Mills trainer. And I put that on the start of my video, and then sent the video in to get assessed. And then oddly enough, I'm sat in the same chair, and I don't know how long later, it could have been 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever it was. But a call comes through, and then they said, oh, hi, it's Kathy Spencer Browning. And of course, you all know who she is, and maybe a lot of people listening. And I knew a little bit about the industry, and obviously I knew that she was the training manager of Les Mills in the US at the time. And so I was kind of like, okay, why would the big boss, a legend in the industry, be calling me? I'm a nobody. And I thought someone was joking. I was like, oh, come on, shut up. And she was like, no. And I could hear the Aussie accent. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, I just had to call you personally because her husband's Terry. Her husband went up She said, my husband and I watched so many of these videos of people that want to be a trainer, sending in instructors. And she said, when your video came on, Terry was in the kitchen and I had to stop the video and go, Terry, come on here, have a look at this guy. And she said, we just pissed ourselves laughing. And it was like, if you can take yourself that less seriously and have that much of a, you know, laugh at yourself for something that's quite important, we've got to bring you down for a boot camp and give you a chance to come on the team. And I can remember when she was telling me that, I was just like almost falling off my chair going, this is quite interesting, because I just done it to be an idiot. You know, I just thought it was something funny. It wasn't like I thought it was going to get me through. But there you go. So I did my training as an instructor on Pump 44. And I then went to the trainer boot camp was coming up that I went on straight away because of this dumb video that I sent in. And there was about 40 of us on this training, and maybe 12 or 15 of us got taken on. And in the States at the time, we were rolling out quite a lot of trainings. So I actually went out on 5 initial trainings, almost weekend by weekend. So I got the training manual, obviously learned the materials. It was 3-day training, as you said. And I went out with a different trainer every time. So I got this learning curve, this fast track learning of going on trainings very quickly and going out with a different trainer each time. And I delivered my first solo initial training on release 47, 3 releases later.
Wow.
So I was just kind of lucky that it was growing fast at the time. I was probably a bit lucky that, you know, being a foreigner and sending in a stupid video got me, you know, noticed. And then I just went manic obsessive about learning the training manual. You know, I'm sitting on the toilet reading the training manual. You know, I'm supposed to be doing work. I'm reading the training manual, and going out on those modules quite quickly meant I could craft my skills quite good, quite fast. You know, it's like if you wait 2 months to do another training, you've almost got to relearn everything, and it can be a bit sort of clunky. But I got quite a nice, smooth, fast learning curve. And then what happened, obviously, in the USA, that Les Mills brought the agency back, so there was a split from Body Training Systems and Les Mills. And for my visa, I would have had to have stayed with Body Training Systems to stay in America, and I wanted to stay with Les Mills. So that was when I came back to the UK. And what was really lovely was Kathy Spencer Browning phoned Pete Manuel personally and said, hey, look, I've got this English guy coming back home. You know, do you want to have a look at him for the team? He's quite good. And Pete's like, yeah, bring him on. Let's have a look. And so I was really lucky enough that when I met Pete and Yvette, you know, we just had a little chat. And because of the reference to Kathy, that they let me get involved with the team in the UK. Yeah.
Cool. I just wonder now, you know, you said about that video that you sent in, and you sung at the beginning and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like not taking yourself seriously, but then you are, because you kind of wanted that role, isn't it? Whereas I think, do perhaps people these days, like the newer generation coming through, get so laser focused, like I want to be a trainer, that they almost take things too seriously. You know, do you know what I mean? Where they're not like, you know, you kind of think, well, but who are you really? You know, you don't kind of really get to know
100.
them.
It's interesting because we see it, right? You know, we're lucky enough that we've been in that position where we're training instructors, or we're offering opportunities to potential presenters, potential trainers. And you see it all the time, someone that really, really wants it so bad that there's so much pressure on themselves that they can't perform very well, you know, or they don't show their real self because they think there's certain boxes they need to tick in order to take that position. And they're kind of not their authentic self, and they're not as natural. But you know who they are, and you know they are great at what they do. It's just they're not able to show their best for whatever reason, or, you know, people trying too hard to be the thing that they think you want to see. Yeah. And you do see through that straight away. And it's, you know, there's a million and one reasons why that happens, as we know. But that's kind of one thing that I've always been really passionate about for myself. It was wanting to be myself, you know, warts and all. Sometimes I'm good, sometimes I'm bad, sometimes I'm funny, sometimes I'm an idiot. And I've kind of learned over the years to sort of accept that, and know that the one thing I do is, when you see me teach a class, or if you see me deliver a training, or if you're chatting to me in a coffee shop afterwards, or if I go to Les Mills, New Zealand, and I do a filming, I'm the same person all the way through. It's not that you see a different version of me that feels false. And I was always really passionate about hanging on to that, because I'm sure you'll remember there was a very there was a lot of resistance to Les Mills about us being robots, and everyone's saying the same thing, doing the same thing, and especially with the freestyle fitness world, it was very much, you guys are just giving your choreography and you all say the same stuff. And I always took that really personally, and I always, when I trained instructors, I really drilled into, you've got to be yourself. Yes, we give you the choreography. Yes, there's a certain amount of cues that you need to say to set people up successfully. But if you're going to be successful at this, and if people are going to love coming to your class, they need to be able to know you. They need to be able to see you each week and then get connection with you and feel like they know you a little bit, and you build that community, regardless of if you're saying 2-2, chest up, abs on, bar to the knees, and all that sort of stuff. So I always kind of fought quite hard for that. And then I make sure that I was never that person that people thought was being wooden or false or not being their real self.
Yeah.
And we're human, we see through it. It's easy to see if someone's being real, authentic. And it was always, I always found it a shame that people, there was a barrier to stopping people growing into that space. What was that barrier? Is it that they didn't feel they were good enough? Is it that they were trying too hard to say and do the right thing? Is it that they feel like they had to do a certain thing to get the accreditation from Les Mills or the acknowledgement? There's many things, but you're exactly right with what you say. And when you look at the people that have made it, people like Emma Barry, you can't get more individual than Emma Barry, that, she's broken all the rules, all the molds, pushes all the envelopes. And it's like mega successful, absolutely did the opposite of staying in a cardboard box and doing what they're told. And I've got a few role models that are in that space that kind of keep me grounded and keep me humble in terms of, it's the best way to be. And I can't remember who said that quote, but, something around, there's a very high chance that you might fail at something. So you may as well fail at it being yourself than failing at it trying to be someone else, which is quite good advice.
Yeah. I just kind of wonder, obviously, when we kind of started off with Les Mills, it was still quite fledgling, knew the team was very small. Half the time we were trying to figure things out on our feet. And now it can be perceived almost as like a machine, isn't it? And so people wanting to now do what we do as a trainer probably might feel that, I need to fit into this mold, which I don't think so. I think, I'm all for individuality and just being yourself, but I just wonder if that's how they feel,
I mean, you've made a really good point around it. It is a different animal now. It has evolved and changed, and I guess in a sense you had that first generation of trainers that came through, like Mike, Pete, Steve, Emma, Susan, that were the originals that took this thing to the world, and that's the one that sort of trained you guys in the UK. That sort of second generation, and that's then kind of where I come in on the back end of that second generation. But now we've got like a third generation, a fourth generation, and it's grown into something completely different. So you're 100% right that I think to become a trainer and presenter, there's different processes now, and there's different factors that are taken into consideration. But I also agree that we still want individuality. We still want people to bring their own strength to the table. What is it that's unique about you? What are you going to bring that somebody else can't bring? It is a bit more of a polished machine. You're seeing it on the filmings now. It's a little bit more, I don't want to say the word beige, but it's kind of a little bit more polished, professional. They've got to be really careful what they say. There's not so much of the throwaway jokes and the in jokes and the things that we sort of did back in the day. So I guess we did have it forged a little bit differently. And I like what you said about we were finding our way, because we were. And sometimes a Facebook post pops up of something from years ago, and I look at it and go, oh my God, what was I doing? What was I wearing? Why was my hair like that? Who did I think I was? And then I've seen some clips of me teaching, and I'm like, I was just an idiot. Some of the things I was saying was, just trying to rhyme things together or say something that was a bit controversial or something that was really cheesy. But at the time, that was authentic. That was who I was. I was finding my way. And if you can't look back and you're horrified at yourself, then you haven't actually grown, have you? So I embrace it. And I think I'm much better at what I do now than I was. But I do feel that it is a hard thing to get into, because let's say, for example, here in China, we've got 8,000 instructors. I've got 120 on the training team, and only 36 of those are trainers. So if you're in
Wow.
China and you want to be a trainer, there's 8,000 of you, and at the moment there's only a role for 36. So
Yeah.
let's be honest, most of you are going to fail. The job just isn't there for most of you. So what my role has been here is around managing expectations and things like, well, if your only goal is to be a trainer, and that's, it's great to have a goal, but you've also got to remember that you might not achieve that, and you might not achieve that based on something that's out of your control. It could be the programs that you have or where you live, or it could be there's already someone in that role. They don't need a second person, whatever it might be. So then we've got to think, okay, well, where is our purpose and where is our value? How can I stay in this industry for a long time and be of service, but also strive for that goal? So I do a lot of trying to help people understand that, as cliche as it sounds, what you do in your day-to-day classes is actually way more important than one initial training every 3 months. Because in your day-to-day classes, you're in front of 20 people again and again and again, and that's where you can really connect and make a difference. And when you talked about like butterfly moments and key moments in my career, this happened to me in New Zealand. So this would have been 2009. So I was teaching at Les Mills New Lynn, and if anyone listening knows that gym, it's a beautiful gym. It's run by a lady called Jackie Griffin. And she is all about community. Like, she puts her heart and soul and everything into that place. And it's a very like indigenous area, West Auckland as well. So a lot of Pacific Islanders, a lot of Maoris, Polynesians, Fijians, Tongans, and it's all about family and community. And I was kind of welcomed as like the white foreigner stepson. So they welcomed me in their community and looked after me and loved me. And I grew a lot as a person and as a manager there. And I used to teach a Tuesday night body combat class, 5:30. And then one day there was this guy in class, and he was a big Islander dude, and he was in the back corner. I remember a really big black baggy t-shirt on, and I did what any instructor would do. I just went up and said, "Hey, how you doing? Haven't seen you before." He goes, "Oh, hey, my name's Oni." "Hey, I'm Matt." And then I just taught the class. And once or twice early on in the class, I just said, "Hey, Oni, how you doing?" And then at the end, I just checked in to see how he was. So again, nothing too special, just what anyone would normally do. And anyway, as the months then transpired, he kept coming back, was losing a bit of weight, looking a bit fitter, started to wear slightly smaller t-shirts, began to move a little bit to the front of the room. Anyway, what happened was, I didn't know at the time, but a lady in the front row that was the hardcore body combatter that always wore the wraps, the gloves, and all the gear, that was his wife, Rebecca. And Rebecca was always in my class with 2 or 3 of her friends, front row. They knew all the releases. Anyway, so I then found out that that's the husband. So of course that's cool that the husband and wife are both coming now. And then they start bringing their son, Jonah. Jonah starts coming to class. Similar, he's a little bit overweight, a little bit shy, starts coming to class, looking good, moves well, gets more confident. Anyway, we end up putting him on a training, and I was his initial trainer. So he did a training and he became an instructor at Les Mills New Lynn. Fast forward a bit more time, and he gets selected for the Les Mills New Zealand presenter squad by Tawanga. So he's now chosen him to be delivering quarterly workshops, which is a really, really cool thing. But what's even more cool is that Jonah now has children. So those children also have this great role model of their father doing fitness and activity, their grandfather and grandmother doing fitness and activity. So it's this real cool community that I was really privileged to be part of and to see that kind of grow and evolve. But the big sort of, I guess, butterfly moment for me was when Oni actually gave me a card, and it was about a year after he'd been coming. And in that card, he wrote down, "Hey man, I just wanted to say thanks for what you did for me. When I came to the gym, I wasn't feeling too good, a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I had a lot of weight that I wanted to lose. I just want to really say thank you, because what you did for me has made me feel comfortable. And along with the support of my wife and the support of the community at New Lynn, and he wanted to get down to 100 kilos, and he was almost there, and he was really proud of himself." And I can remember reading this, and it was just such an emotional moment for me. And I took it straight down to the office and shared it with Jackie. And to this day, I can still remember the look on his face, the look on her face, how I felt. And what that showed me was again, butterfly moments, because when I said hello to him in class, it almost meant nothing to me. It was just my job. It was what I do. I've done it to hundreds of people over the years. But to him, it was really profound. It was something really important that made a big difference in his day. and it ended up making a big difference in his life and his son's life and his granddaughter's life. And I thought, wow, that is amazing, powerful, because I know for a fact that anybody listening to this now, if you're an instructor, you've done that for someone else. You have had that moment where you've said or done something very simple, but it has had a massive effect on someone else. And they might not have told you. You might not have been lucky enough that they've given you a card or a letter or said thank you, but you can guarantee it's happened. And by the same token, I can guarantee that it has happened to you. There's probably someone that gave you a little bit of help or said something that was a word of encouragement or gave you an opportunity that changed the course of your life, the same way that Terry did for me. And I always think, how nice is it if we have the opportunity to just say thank you to that person and let them know? Because the feeling you get is, it's just, you know, I don't actually have children, but I can imagine it's that kind of feeling of, you know, seeing your child do something and you're so proud and so emotional, way more than your own, you know, success.
Yeah.
So that was, again, when I was looking back over the career, there was these little moments that I think it's a tiny little moment that had a massive effect, this butterfly effect moment. And that was in a regular class. And a lot of these moments are in just your regular day-to-day classes. So it was great that I had I guess the goal and the dream to be a trainer, and I was very lucky to achieve it. But my most memorable moments when I look back and the things that made the biggest difference were these little moments. So I always tell people it's that old classic thing of you know, of it's the journey, not the destination. You know, we've got to what we're doing day to day, how we grow, how we develop, who we influence, who we inspire. Like, that's our legacy. You know, that's our legacy. No one's going to remember Matt the trainer. It was something more profound than that.
Yeah, no, I always say, you know, you're an instructor first and a trainer second, really. You know, because that, as an instructor, you're doing that day in, day out, right? That job, day in, day out, and making a difference to people's lives. You know, the trainer sort of an added benefit, I think, where it gives you a slightly bigger reach because you get to inspire instructors, but it's the instructors at ground level that are really, truly making the difference. So I've got a question for you, Matt. What's the craziest thing you've done for the love of group fitness?
Well, there's a lot of, you know, hours of work not getting paid, or, you know, spending your own time and money traveling to places and you know, doing the hard graft and putting in the hard yards, which you know, which I don't begrudge any of that stuff. It was character building, made me who I am. And I can remember one time in the States, you know, I didn't have much money, and what we had to do in the States is you book the hotel yourself and then you get reimbursed. And then so I remember I get to this, it's San Antonio, Texas. So I get to the hotel to check in and there's no money on my card. I can't check in. But as luck would have it, it must have been like 11 o'clock at night. And then the thing is, at 12 o'clock, I knew that my check was going to clear in my bank. So I had to wait until midnight and then go to the ATM machine and hope that that check had cleared and that I could get money out to actually get that hotel room. Otherwise, I was going to have to just stay in the car and I wasn't going to be able to go. And I remember just thinking, why am I doing this? I'm in such a stressful position. I'm in a foreign place. I'm in a foreign town. I know no one here. I'm supposed to be rocking up tomorrow being this consummate professional, and I don't even have enough money to get this hotel, you know, and I don't have a support mechanism of who I can call. But I remember looking back on that fondly, because you get through it, you know, and then those are the little things that you remember.
Yeah.
I know I've said a few probably choice comments over the years of when I'm on stage that might have got a laugh from some people and then might have offended a few others, that I may or may not be super proud of those moments, but they're moments that I can remember people recant to you. So obviously they remember them. And I love the feeling of being memorable and, you know, for good, bad, or indifferent. Again, it's me being a natural person. So yeah, I don't know what I'm allowed to share.
It's entirely up to you what you want to share. Move countries.
I guess what's probably a little bit crazy is the amount of times I've actually just packed my bags and upped and left and gone to another country. So I was in the US at the start of this Les Mills group fitness journey. And then, as we talked about earlier, I went back to the UK. And from the UK, I then went to New Zealand in 2008. And I was there for 4.5 years. Then went to Australia in 2012. I was there for almost 5 years and then moved to China. So you know, it's one of those things that it's great that you have that opportunity to go to different countries and travel and do so many things. And I feel really privileged. Along with that was also, it's very challenging, and you do sacrifice quite a lot, you know, of not being around your family, your friends, missing birthdays and weddings and important events. And so there's always that struggle, and that's probably quite a crazy thing to do, especially for someone like me, that you know, family is a really big value of mine. So the difficult thing is it's often through social media and you know, and WhatsApp and FaceTime, and you know, you're staying in contact with your family that way, as opposed to actually being face to face, which is sometimes a hard thing to, I guess, to justify or balance or even out. But you know, moving to those countries that speak English wasn't such a huge challenge. Obviously, there's some cultural differences with Australia, America, New Zealand, and the UK, but the jump to China was a big one. And I think I underestimated how difficult that would be, you know, going somewhere where I didn't speak the language, I didn't know much about the culture. I wasn't that interested in a lot of the food to begin with. I thought it was quite dodgy. You know, and it's, you know, it's not just the challenge of the job, it's the job in all those cultural differences, and it's then not having that support mechanism. You know, I can't, you know, I used to live with a guy, Chris Richardson, and then we both had the same job. He was group fitness manager of Auckland City, I was group fitness manager of New Lynn, you know, and we could bump into each other and have a coffee, you know, and all of a sudden I can't do that. I can't just bump into a friend and have a coffee, or see someone down at the local supermarket. You know, I'm not driving my car, I haven't got half my clothes. You know, there's lots of these little things that you kind of don't bargain for, but every now and then it pops up, and it's a quick reminder that you are in a foreign place doing something quite different. But I love it. I mean, it is a bit crazy. There are people that wouldn't do it. You know, my brother, for example, loves being close to mum and dad and being at home. He's a very homely person, hasn't traveled much and doesn't have a desire to. I can remember me, I couldn't wait to sort of leave little old Honiton and try and explore the world, you know, but what it has done, it's given me a real, I guess, what's the word? Understanding, not an understanding, a real, what's the word? Like a respect for where I'm from in Honiton, a real, like I really, when I go back, I see all the good things that I couldn't see when I was young, you know, and I respect and feel blessed that there's the open air, the countryside. I can have tea and scones with my mum. You know, there's little Honiton lace shops, there's little antique shops. You know, people don't lock their doors because it's still safe. Everyone says hello, how are you? It's a real nice community. You know, you really appreciate those things when you travel a lot. Yeah.
Do you know, I don't think I ever told you this. When I moved down to the Southwest, 2011, I got offered, I sent my CV, I contacted people for classes, right? And I sent my CV down to Taunton.
Oh, yeah.
And the manager, I don't think it was the manager, I think he's like further up on the group, and messaged me because he used to work for Holmes Place years ago. And remember being at an event in Barcelona where I taught body balance on the beach. Stephen Arthur was there. We all got very drunk and everything else, right? So he offered me a couple of classes, and I thought, great, you know, it was just to teach, right? And I ended up taking over a body pump class that used to be yours.
I never knew that. Was that was it a Sporter, or it used to be called a Sporter?
No, it's a leisure centre.
The leisure centre. Oh, yeah. Maybe Blackbrook, is it? Wellsprings, Blackbrook, yeah.
Wellspring, is it Wellspring's the one that's further into Taunton? Blackbrook is right by the motorway, I think. It was also the one.
Yeah, that's right. I think Blackbrook's close to the motorway.
But there was a couple. Is it Di and?
Oh yeah. There's and a girl, Sarah. There's still a hardcore little community. Yeah, Kate and Di. They were two.
Yeah, because they've been to New Zealand, right?
Yeah, that's right.
For filming, yeah, and I was like, oh god, these are big shoes to step into. That's shoes.
Oh, that's awesome. I never knew that. Yeah,
it was really cool. They're hardcore Les Mills following down there at the time. It was really cool. Really,
but it's great, right? And it's kind of, it's one of the best things about what we do, you know, regardless of if it's a Les Mills class or a pump class or a balance class or Zumba or whatever it might be. You know, you get this community, you know, and they, like, I still Facebook message Kate and Di all the time when it's a birthday or an event coming up. or if I go back to the UK, I try and go in and see Kate. She still works at this cake store in cake shop. Yeah. And they're just sort of lifelong friends, you're not as close to them. You don't see them as often as maybe your kind of other friends, but they're always there and in amongst it. And when I was living in Taunton, I'd see them 3 or 4 times a week. And quite often, if it was a birthday on occasion, as a group, we'd have drinks and dinner or go to their house. And without fail, that's happened everywhere I've been. There's been a really lovely little close-knit community of people that just, value what you do and value friendship. And it's almost like the fitness side of it, the getting fit and healthy part of it is just a byproduct. That's not the thing that means the most anymore. It's that sense of belonging, that community, having friends, having people that you've met in the gym that actually you meet outside of the gym as well. It's not just a 6 p.m. body pump class person. It's you also meet for coffee on Saturday, or you've got a mutual friend, you walk the dogs together on a Tuesday morning, whatever it might be. And maybe that's part of getting older and having the experience that you can look back on that stuff and realize how much that means to you and to them, and how important it is that you sort of grow and nurture those relationships. It's funny how that works. Because I didn't know that story.
I was like, oh dear. I'm the balancer, right? Not the pumper. I think I took on pump and combat there. I didn't even have balance there, but I was like grateful to have a class when I moved down to the Southwest. So it was cool. So what does the whole future hold for you, Matt? Do you know?
It's funny because like I chatted about this a little bit when I went back to the UK for the Les Mills Summit, because again, I'm talking with you, of course, as well, that you bump into people that you haven't spoken to for a while, but you spent many years with them growing up in your Les Mills group fitness world, or you just stay in contact a little bit, through social media. But it was almost like a school reunion. And this question came up a lot, how have you been? What are you doing? What's the future? And I don't actually have a plan. What I've sort of discovered is all along my journey, I've just been lucky that these moments of opportunity have popped up. Been very fortunate. But what's happened is I've always been prepared and available for that opportunity. So, I just keep doing the hard work, that if something arises, I'm in a position where I can take that opportunity. Someone thinks I've got the skills to bring to the table that's worth, investing in, bringing on board. And I've taken that risk of, leaving a country and going for it. So it's always been kind of coincidental, not so much planned. And I've got a few friends that have gone into jobs that they knew that's the job they were going to do. They had a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. Their life has been very sort of structured, and they've reached these goals that they set out to achieve. Whereas mine's been a little bit more random. And I actually love that. And people that I've bumped into on a train and chatted about their careers, quite often they've had the same thing, where they've fallen into this really cool job, but they didn't plan for it. It just kind of happened and it evolved, and they were ready to take that opportunity. So I feel like that's where I am now. I'm not in any rush to change anything at the moment. I love what I do. China is obviously in quite I guess a difficult transitional time with the virus and the fitness industry and how difficult things are now. But I do think there's, better days on the horizon. And I think there's still a lot of work I can do with the team here. It's an emerging market. There's still a lot of opportunity. Things move quick. There's money here. If someone wants to start up a company, a gym, a training center, that can happen quite quick. If you're someone that wants to create opportunities, there's people that will back you and work with you. So it feels like it's a really good place to be that way. But again, the same thing, that if an opportunity came up in 6 months that was completely different, a different country or something new, then I'd consider it when it comes. It's kind of exciting. Yeah,
I've never planned anything.
Yeah, and I feel like it's probably similar for you, isn't it? Like a lot of the things,
I just roll along.
Yeah.
And I think there's an opening, and I go, oh, that looks quite interesting. Let me check it out. And then, but I don't feel I've planned everything. But then when I look back at my life, I kind of wonder if there's a bigger plan. Someone's got a bigger plan for me, But
there's always a drive there, right? You're someone that you're always looking for ways to learn and grow and develop. I know you read a lot and study a lot, and the podcasts and all this sort of stuff. This is all, in that space of, if an opportunity comes up, then you're ready and available to take it, because you've done these, I guess, hard yards behind the scenes, but you haven't actually known what you're doing them for specifically, you know.
Yeah.
And
And
that's why, yeah.
it's all about growth for me. Like, you know, I think, you know, you talk about community a lot. I think when, you know, I'm an introvert, so I'm really quite happy with my own company, and a lot of self-reflection. And I guess for me, still doing Les Mills, I'm very intrinsically motivated. So, and it's all about my, you know, growth and evolution for me. And then opportunities, like you say, just appear, you know, and you think, oh, okay,
Funny
yeah,
how that works. Yeah.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
it is interesting because I've actually discovered I'm quite introverted, which, you know, I didn't really know. And I guess anyone that knew me from back in the UK, Les Mills days, I definitely wasn't an introvert then, you know, but it's funny how the, you know, the lockdowns that I've gone through and the COVID situation in China and then us having to work from home for so long, I've spent a lot of time by myself, and the same as you, I actually really enjoyed it. And I was able to learn a lot more about me. I could read more, study more, branch out and do more things I wouldn't normally do because life was always quite fast paced. Whereas now you had that pause, it opened up a bit of space to do some new things. And I guess similar to you, it's about growth and development. So I started learning a lot more. And it probably come from that mental health space. So where it was such a challenging time for me with my mental health that was already probably a little bit fragile anyway. You know, the being stuck in your 60 square foot apartment for 76 days, not knowing where you're getting your food was quite a challenge. And what happened is I sort of developed this thing, and I played a joke on the Les Mills really. So I called it the 5C elements instead of the 5 key elements. Like, so only Les Mills instructor would know we have that framework of the 5 key elements. But I sort of, this thing evolved and it was 5C. So the first one was control. So, you know, control what you can control. Yeah. And we all know that one. And what happened was I was just finishing reading the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And obviously that's like the ultimate tale of, you know, finding the good in a bad situation and having that hope and belief and, you know, finding meaning in the suffering. So my Lord, my suffering was nothing like that. Let's be honest. I'm not comparing what I was going through, but it was just interesting timing that I was reading that book as we went into this big lockdown. But it helped me frame everything up of let's just control what you can control, you know, and move into that space of growth and sharing others and being of value rather than worrying about yourself. And then the second C was connection. So then it was reach out more to my family, my friends, my teammates, my colleagues. So I did a lot more of this kind of stuff, podcasts, seminars, you know, Facebook groups, WeChat groups. And actually I was closer with my family than I ever had been because we were talking every day. And so we're talking about the day-to-day stuff of of my brother's children growing up. Dad's in a little bit of ill health, so I was keeping up with that. Whereas normally I might only check in once every 1 or 2 weeks, you know, or your conversation will be about what's happening that day, but not about what you did in the last couple of weeks. Now the conversation is instant, you know. So my connection with the family was much closer. And then the third C was capability. So now I have some time to build my own capability. You know, read more books, learn a musical instrument, learn Chinese. I don't know if you saw, I posted some, I can't remember if I posted it on social or not, or if it was just Chinese social, but I learned headstands, right? And I know you're going to laugh because it's like, how can you not do a headstand? You're a fitness professional, you idiot. But I couldn't do them. And I was getting really angry at myself, really frustrated. And I kept, and of course, because I was stupid enough to video it and put it on the Chinese social media where my team could see, I had to nail this thing. Otherwise I'd look like an idiot. So I had this drive. And I tell you what, when I actually completed it and did a headstand, this wave of emotion that came over me was really profound. And what I realized was it wasn't just the skill of doing a headstand. It was that I tried something that I sucked at and I was bad. And I tried again and I failed. I tried again and I failed. I got angry at myself. I got frustrated. I went to bed that night. I tried it again the next night and I kept practicing and trying to work it out. And when I eventually got through and succeeded, I was like, when was the last time I did that? Like, when was the last time I tried something new? I was shit at it, but I stayed with it and tried to get better. And I got through with resilience and achieved it. And I couldn't remember. I could not tell you in 5 years, whenever I did that, 10 years, because I live in a bubble where I keep doing things I'm quite good at, you know, the Les Mills stuff, training manager. And that was a real lesson. And I thought, wow, that was quite profound. And having that feeling, imagine if you could have that feeling more often or share that with more people. So that was quite interesting about how building your capability, you don't know what's on the other side of achieving that thing, or the journey of self-discovery of getting it. But you've just got to try. You've got to get in there and do something, like you say, growth and development. And I'm really understanding more about that with this kind of thing of learning a headstand. It was really bizarre. And then the last two was one was self-care. So the fourth C was care. And what happened is I'd recently watched a TED talk by Sean Aker, where he talks about the happiness advantage at work. And he does this little thing. So, neuroplasticity, right? So it's rewiring your brain. And the group of people did these 5 things every day for 21 days. And then at the end of it, their brain was more positive. And so it just shows, the studies show how, obviously when your brain is in a more positive state, you're more productive, more creative, you're sharper focused. And he has all the stats around how much better doctors are at making decisions, lawyers are, salesmen, there's a whole bunch of stuff around it. But essentially it's something like 30% than if your brain is neutral or negative or stressed. So obviously we want to live in a more positive state because it's better for everyone. So it's things like it's exercise, meditation, random acts of kindness, journaling, and gratitudes. So those 5 things, you do them every day for 21 days, puts your brain in that more positive state. So again, I just watched that. I watched a lot of TED Talks, but his was a great talk. And so I thought, well, I'm going to do that. Some self-care. I'm going to try meditation and breathing. I'm going to try and pause and reflect. I'm going to be, looking out into the horizon more. I'm going to do random acts of kindness, even if it's just open up and send someone an email, hey, you're doing a great job, thanks for the day. Random acts of kindness, gratitudes. So at the end of each day, 3 things that I'm happy for. And I've got my new book for 2023. This is my new gratitude book, ready to continue on. Because I just found that not only was it helping me at that time, that moving on now, if I get a bit down, I can go back to look at what I wrote weeks ago and go, I forgot that. Someone baked me a cake. I forgot they did that. That was really, and it brings those feelings back up. And then the last one was community. And this was from 2 people in my team, Robin and Nick. So they're from Wuhan, which is where obviously the virus started from, and they had the harshest lockdown. So 2 of my trainers from Wuhan, they were getting this hardcore lockdown, and then the whole world was like hating on Wuhan because they were blaming Wuhan for the virus. But what they did straight away, they went online and started to share workouts, share recipes. They were doing husband and wife dancing. They were doing all sorts of random fun stuff, cooking food. But they just did 3 or 4 updates on social media every single day to reach out to their instructors, to the members in their club, their family and friends, and the wider Lesmos community. And it was just so powerful to me seeing how much effect that had on other people. And I thought, they're in possibly the worst situation of any of us at the moment, but their first thought was to help other people. And I loved that. I thought that's exactly what this is about, right? We are servants. So if I get down or stressed or depressed, I know that if I reach out and try and do something for someone else, it makes me feel better. It also makes that person feel better. And then you just have that little cycle. So it's almost, in a sense, a selfish way of stopping me going down that dark, sort of depressed, lonely state. It's a mechanism that I know I'm a better person if I'm doing something for someone else. It lifts me out of that quagmire. And you don't know the person on the other end. It might have been just the thing they need that day to help them out. So it's quite funny, this little 5C thing that I've done a few sessions for the team in China and for the office team. And people seem to love it. It's not brand new news, me saying this, it's all stuff that but putting it in a nice little, 5-step package that's a quick, easy reminder just helps us have a framework to manage this sort of stuff. And it's not just the COVID, the isolation, it's stuff, in just day-to-day life. Are you worrying about the stupid stuff, or are you focused on what you can control? Are you staying connected with people that really mean something to you? Are you fostering those relationships? Are you building your own capabilities? Are you taking care of your own mental health? And are you of service to your community? And that never would have happened, I don't think, if I wasn't in this introvert space and having that time to reflect, so it's quite interesting. And I love working from home now. I love being in my apartment.
Apart from your quarantine incident when you had to go back in.
Oh. Well, I think I said to you, didn't I, in London, that I was almost like, I felt quite awkward and a little bit socially anxious when I was back out in a large group, and there might have been 4 or 5 of us talking, I had to kind of pull away a little bit and either just go off to the toilet or find some space. I struggled with being in large groups again. It was quite an interesting transition and a sort of self-discovery thing, you know.
Yeah, I think that was quite normal, because I remember the first group, like little quarterly thing that we did in person, you know, that was something that we all had to be mindful of with the team, you know, because some were fine and others were, you know, hesitant, even instructors coming back as well. So yeah. So I love that. I absolutely love your 5 C's. You know, I think that's a great takeaway. So for anyone, so final question, really, I'm conscious of your time. For our listeners, for anyone who absolutely loves this industry, what would your key message be for them?
Oh, there's so many, isn't there? I mean,
Key tips.
One thing that I find myself talking about quite a lot lately is around actually just, you know, is that honoring and respecting and feeling privileged about the role that we have, this day-to-day role, whether it's doing personal training, teaching group fitness manager, whatever your role is in this fitness industry. It's actually recognizing that, hey, it's a really important job you do. You know, it's really a lot of value to a lot of people, and what we do is it makes a difference. You know, and quite often we're in that space of wanting to grow, develop, become a presenter, become a trainer, get the next job. We're striving and driving. Do we actually take that moment to pause and go, I'm doing important stuff here. Like, this is great that I've got the opportunity to do this. I feel privileged that I can do this. And when I look at the eyes of the people in my class, you know, they're shiny, sparkly eyes, and you can see that you're making a difference in these people's lives. And I know for me along the way, I've kind of lost that at times. You know, either been too self-focused, or in the early days, I was a little bit too arrogant and cocky. You know, you're not in that space, or if you get passed over for a position and then you're a bit miserable, or you're hard on the industry because you think it's not paying you enough, or, you know, you should have got something and you didn't. It's very difficult. It's very easy for us to just skip over the fact that we need someone to say, hey, hang on a second, what you're doing is really important work. This is great. Embrace that. And thank you. You know, thank you for doing what you do, because we need more people like you. You know, if you're an instructor out there, it's hard, right? It's hard for people to exercise. It's hard for people to go to a gym. You know, we kind of forget, you know, it's only, what's the average now? Maybe 10% of the population globally actively engaged in exercise, which is terrible. You know, that means 90% of them are not. So why are they not? Why are these people not coming? We know that over 90% of people that join these health clubs like Weight Watchers and diet fads and things, in 12 months, like more than 90% have put on more weight, or they're the same weight. They didn't achieve their goal. So why are people failing at this? And that's a whole nother story. There's a lot of stuff behind that, but that's what I like to sort of share is around, we're needed, you know, and be valued, feel recognized, even if you might not be getting it from your boss, or your remuneration might not be where you think it should be. It's like, there is plenty of people out there that are thankful that you show up each day and do what you do, and it means a hell of a lot to them, even if they might not have shared that with you. So I like to try and share that with people, to try and remind them of the good we are doing, and that I know how hard it is to be an instructor, and what the sacrifice is, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I want to give praise and encouragement and respect and honor as much as possible. So that advice would be, keep doing what you're doing, you know. And then of course I think this little 5C thing, and the stuff you talked about, growth and development, and the stuff we've talked about, community, like and like honoring the journey, the process rather than the destination. I think all these great learnings, it's great to remind ourselves of those and value that in daily what we do. And that takes you into normal life as well. You know, everything that we've learned in this fitness industry is stuff that we can pass on in our day-to-day life. So for me, it's never exclusive. It's not like this is my job. It's like, this is just who I am. It's my life, you know. And I know you'll feel the same way, and most people listening will probably feel exactly the same way. It's just what we do, right?
It is what we do. Yeah.
It is what we do. And if it wasn't lifting a barbell or punching thin air, it would be, you know, doing it in some other way, you know, making a coffee. I don't know. But yeah, I think those sort of key we've touched on are very valid, very valuable.
I think, I mean, like for me anyway, you know, when people mention your name, you know, on a personal level, things that come to my mind is the fact that you're all about community, and that you take what you do seriously, but you don't take yourself that seriously. You know, which is that whole authentic side of you, you know, kind of respecting yourself enough to be who you are, you know, with what you do. And I think that is hugely inspiring for people. Hugely inspiring for people.
I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you so much for your time.
And
And
you're welcome. I could chat for ages. I know.
Yeah, we should do it more often. I'll get you on again.
Yeah, it's good. But yeah, I think
we haven't talked
for
about
tuning in. I'll say what?
We haven't talked about the real like stuff we've done in group fitness that we might not be so proud of.
Part 2, yeah, I've got some part 2.
Do a part 2.
I want to remind people in case they remember me in a positive light. But if I remind them, they might go, "Oh yeah, he was an idiot."
Some of the stuff we did in our early days of Les Mills, you're like, really? Did I really?
Well, your nickname was Hardcore, wasn't it?
My name is Hardcore.
For various reasons. So yeah, we'll leave that there. People can read into that what they will.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's great. And what you're doing is great. You know, I love, because you're about community as well. And yes, it's growth and development, but it's connection and these kind of things, podcasts. And I remember Dan McDonough did fireside chats. There's Glenn Marsden do his Imperfectly Perfect campaign.
Yes.
There's a lot of good people doing this sort of stuff that's really good. So yeah, thank you to you for doing this kind of stuff, because it brings people together. Tony Zanardo with his as well. It's you know, us group fitness people, we want to, or group exercise, if you're Tony Zanardo, you know, we've got to look after each other and keep each other pumped up and keep each other inspired and motivated. And yeah, and so thanks to everyone who's jumped on board listening as well. Hopefully there's a couple of nuggets of value in there amongst all the waffle that I gave you.
Lots. Cool.
I hope to see you soon.
Yeah. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.